you were to if you were to package like the energy of the Avengers and the Expendables all in one place, you'd have Iron Man fully loaded with a cigar and a whiskey, and this is the level of the podcast, which was kind of like refreshing. Like,
yeah,
it's like the anti-conference cast. But if you I came up with this thing a while back. I don't know if you saw it, but it was called the Sport Speed Universe.
Yeah.
And about entering the gates of speed just for fun, just for like a play project.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be more humor in our profession.
I agree.
It's all a bit too serious. And I don't know if you know this story, but everyone, Jeff Moyer's on the podcast is going to be sick. So just stay tuned. I'll stop talking a minute. But the first time I learned how overly serious the S&C profession was, many listeners may have heard this, but you may not have heard this story. When I was at Wasps, I got asked to come up with produce a guide to like recalibrate the watt bikes, like re-zero the watt bikes because they kept breaking on all that, like it really matters for rugby. And like, so I came up with this guide and I stuck it on the wall, and on the end picture, I got a picture of the internet of a bloke doggying some bird over a bicycle, and just put underneath it, put like happy riding. Now this is a rugby club. Okay. It's like jock humor. It was absolutely hilarious because it was kind of like one of those really bad postcard images. It wasn't like porn. It was like a postcard image.
Okay.
And I got fucking rattled for it. They're like, this is a serious job. You can't do this. And I won't name the person because I just don't think that's fair, but it just illustrates the point. It's like, that's a bit much. Like happy riding. It was funny. It was just fun. Yeah. So, but anyway, how's things in your world, Jeff?
Good, man. We just got done. We had Thanksgiving, which is a big national holiday for us here yesterday. So that was lovely. Got to have good food and hang out with family and watch football and just kind of hang around, man. That was nice. But
Eminem did the halftime show, didn't he?
Yeah, he did the Lions halftime show.
What game did you watch?
We just had it on. I was playing with the kids all day, to be honest with you. So we just kind of had it on. I mean, we had the first two games. It was the Lions Packers and then the Chiefs Cowboys. But yeah, I didn't pay too much attention because I don't like any of those teams. We just like having it on.
Yeah, that's fair. What did you eat? Your turkey?
Yeah, man. We had my mother-in-law was with us, so her and I made turkey, and she made a separate turkey so we can have sandwiches and stuff today, and stuffing and sweet potato, sweet mashed potatoes, cranberry sauces, all types of stuff, man. It was good.
Sounds good. That is good. It's hard to do a good turkey though, isn't it? It's hard to cook turkey well.
It takes a while, yeah. It takes a while. Everyone's got their own little trade secrets to stuff, but yeah, it's an all-day process.
It's like everyone in our profession has their trade secrets of how to improve a 5RM.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
But a couple of years ago, I was at my fiance's for Christmas, and her mum was doing a turkey, and it was like one of the most stressful experiences ever because it was like a whole day event.
Yes.
You know, and there was no backup. It was
yeah.
It was the
turkey.
No,
I get that. Yeah, dude. You got to do it right, otherwise the whole meal's screwed. Absolutely.
So yeah, makes me think about Christmas this year. But we just got a roasting tin, proper roasting tin. So you kind of like steams the meat as it cooks it because it keeps all the vapor in. And like, do you like cooking?
I do.
Yeah, I thought you did. So if you wishbone the chicken, so you take the wishbone.
If you whisper into the chicken?
Whisper. If you take the wishbone out.
Wishbone. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. If you take the wishbone out of the chicken and then tie it, whisper, gobble, gobble. that you can tie it, and then when in the roasting tin, like the pot roast, it will just sweat and just how the French do it. It was so good, so good.
Nice.
But anyway, are you still you're still got a couple of guys at the Steelers, is that right?
Yes and no. I mean, I can't say, first of all, anyone is my guys or anything like
Yes.
that. I don't contractually own anybody, but I mean, no, well, Najee, I got to work with Najee Harris for a couple seasons, and no, he left for the Chargers. So he's been out in California. That's where he's from. So I haven't seen him in some time. And then Mason Rudolph, who's the backup quarterback for the Steelers, he comes in when he can, when he's in town and things like that. So I got to work with him the first half of his career, and then he left last year to go to I think Tennessee, and then the Steelers brought him back, so he came back in. So yeah, Mason's still there.
Because I swear I saw you did a presentation on Najee. Was that right?
Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Where was that?
I did
Remind me.
Strength Coach Network with Justin.
That's it. Yeah, and you've dropped the biomechanics course. Was that right?
I did. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How did that go?
It's still going. Good. You know, we had an open cohort, which I've never done before because I wanted to. I'm the type of person, I don't want to leave a stone unturned, and I don't want to be called for bullshit where I can't explain it, because if I am, you know, then I'm full of shit, and I don't want to be like that. There's too many people in our industry that don't like to be questioned. So I wanted to do that in front of some live people to get feedback on, you know, what makes sense, what doesn't. Because I want to be heavy in history, I want to be heavy in the science, I want to be heavy in the theory, but I also, at the end of the day, it's got to come back around to being practical. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of checked off all those boxes first before we kind of put out in the universe. And that was awesome. I had great response from the live, and then we put it out in Strength Coach Network where it's there, and knock on wood, have had good responses back from that, man.
That's sick. Teaching live is so good, isn't it?
Love it. Well, and that's my pedagogical background. I went to school to be a social studies teacher, so I love to teach.
Yeah, and there's an art form to it as well. Like my mum was a teacher, and in education still does bits and bobs now, and there is a way that you have to sit with people in their knowledge base, don't you?
Yeah, and get to, you know, I like to try to coach to the person versus like, this is how I coach and they have to adapt to my style. So trying to understand what works for someone doesn't work for everyone, and you know, and that ties into with everything we do as coaches as well. So you know, that's, people are like, why'd you leave teaching? It's like, 'cause I get to teach. It's just now my subjects are much broader, and I can go into detail and different rabbit holes and things like that, versus just, okay, I'm teaching to the curriculum that the school wants me to teach, which has its pros and cons. But you know, at the end of the day, I can be more of a generalist in what we do. But and then trying to figure out, that person more of a left brain, more right brain, more, you know, how do they learn, and what kind of grabs their attention. I enjoy trying to figure that stuff out, that problem solving.
Yeah, and I guess because that is the, you know, it's the talk about transfer of training, but it's the transfer of information. It's the imparting of knowledge, that how it lands. You know, so the amount of times you have made up terminologies just so it makes sense to people. And it's like, oh, do you get that? Yes, okay, but it doesn't mean that. But this is what it means today. That's what we're doing. Rather than, you know, being by the book. And you know, we were just talking about before, is that like what was the statistic? So in the UK alone, there's 100 postgrad and 100 master's programs in the country churning out strength and conditioning coaches every year.
Well,
So many. And one of them, who I was speaking to the other week, someone who came out, didn't know who Yuri Verkhoshansky was.
oh, dude. So many people don't. Yeah.
And so, there's like three. I say there's one book that every coach has that's never read is Super Training.
Mhm.
And you could solve I've not read it cover to cover in one sitting. I've got quite a lot of notes pulled out of it.
I don't
But
think that's possible.
No, but you go in it, it's like a Bible, don't you, to solve your problem versus going on social media.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was something that, like, I wanted to talk to you about. Actually, it's like the difference, obviously, between influence and influencers. And I know you spent a lot of time with Yessis,
Yes, sir.
and that's again a name that many people don't know.
Sadly.
And the responsibility that that individual had in terms of bringing solid training and revolutionizing sport practice. Could you talk about that for a little bit, because it's something I've actually, obviously his passing, and it's something that I actually wanted to talk to you about, because you're the only person I know who's met him.
Yeah. Well, first, for maybe those who don't know the name Yessis or Dr. Michael Yessis, he he was a sports scientist coach here in the United States, out in California, and he's the one whose his parents had a Russian descent, so they taught him how to read and write and speak Russian. And when he, back in the 50s, he was trying to go as a physical education to get his degree, and he wanted to learn more about what the Russians were doing. So he used to go and read all the Russian sports science literature that was available here in the United States. And he decided to then start translating it. And he, from 1966 to 1994, brought over the Russian training to the United States and came out with quarterly publications of these articles and research and stuff, but that was translated for coaches. And fortunately, I keep looking up here, not that anyone can see, but I have all of them. Good fortune of having all of those articles. So one of his many contributions was that he brought the Eastern Bloc sports science training to the United States and published it in English. Two was he had a PhD in physical education and biomechanics. And so combining his knowledge, his PhD understanding of phys ed and physiology and biomechanics, with the fact that he can speak and translate Russian, he was able to marry the two, which not a lot of people did. They had to go through many other people to try to understand that stuff. And Doc got to go. He got to write and speak and go over to the Soviet Union and spend time with these coaches when that opened up during the 80s. He was one of the coaches that got to go do it and formed relationships with a lot of the giants that were over there, from Dr. Yuri Verkhoshansky to Anatoly Bondarchuk, just to name a few. And so that's how he struck up relationships with them, and they started writing for his publications. So they also contributed to the books, or the manuals, I'm sorry, I apologize, that came out quarterly. And then when in the 2000s, got the ideas to start translating and bringing over those books that those giants wrote, they asked Dr. Yessis to translate for them. And Dr. Yessis was connected with Joseph Johnson of Ultimate Athlete Concepts, who's had another person that's had a huge influence on me. They started publishing it. That's how we got Super Training and all of these other books, Transfer of Training, Block Periodizations, and we got all these books here. But it was through Dr. Yessis that it kind of started in the genesis. And then he took, again, with his knowledge in biomechanics, he was able to come up with his own special exercises. So he took the knowledge and information that the Russians were talking about in the 80s, and then when the fall of the wall in the Soviet Union and everything happened, he built upon that. So we for those, and when I say we, for those that know this information, we look to the Soviets for all this special sports science and sports training ideas, and we came up with a special, we got the special strength ideas and specialized strength and the different levels of it. Well, it stemmed from them, but then it wasn't really brought out until the 80s, and then that's right when the fall happened. And so then those coaches all dispersed, and that science was kind of left, and Dr. Yessis continued on with it and was able to elaborate further and come up with his own ideas and his own technologies for it. So for example, something that not a lot of people knows, one of the reasons why we have a GHR, glute ham raise, is because of Dr. Yessis. He created that exercise or that device based off of what he saw the Russians doing with pommel horses and wall mounts, and he wanted to come up with a more accessible way. So he created that and got bad business advice to not try to make it his own thing. And then now you have a billion different variations of the glute ham raise, but it was Dr. Yessis's device. It was his baby. He still had the original one in his garage when I went and visited him. And so, yeah, that's a lost tale. So you can thank, one of the reasons we can thank having that device is because of Dr. Yessis and many others that he's come up with.
And that's like it warms me hearing that, because it's, you're a big believer, like your future lies in your past in any space, because we have to keep relearning in order to grow. And it depends if it's your own personal growth, you got to unpack everything that's brought you to it to push forward, and just like, and those are some of the big, like, the questions that you ask is kind of like, well, the glute ham raise, it should be a staple in most athletic preparation programs, and people think that Joe Schmo Fitness invented it. They don't understand like where it comes from. There's so many bad ones that are really unsafe to be on, and it's kind of like, when you're in our profession, I always kind of think, if you go back and you look at for athletes what a weight training program will look like, it's ridiculously simple, isn't it? It's so arbitrary. But you fast forward now and you have conversations with coaches, and they don't quite understand, or we don't generally understand, like, why would you do accessory exercises? Like, where does that come from? It comes from a whole different paradigm of training. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, we are repeating. There's nothing new in sports science. There's new technologies, but there's really nothing new. And we're repeating. If anyone has done their history or gone back, you can see it. We're repeating everything that's already been done, from basic strength training and exercises that you're talking about, to even now in the world of biomechanics of speed. They're just coming up with information that we already knew, that we already had, unfortunately.
And then selling it.
Well, yeah, rebranding it with a fancy name, and now it's, they're polishing a turd and calling it fucking a cupcake.
Yeah, well, there's 3-letter words for give a fuck, basically. It's they're like, and I say that, like, I help educate with sports speed and stuff like that, and so there's like, and I think that's where we share a commonality, is that you actually have a responsibility to the past. You don't tell people it's yours. You tell people where it came from. And the joy that I found when writing my book and on the mission that I'm on, is that my question was like, well, it all works, but how do I reshuffle it for a team sport? How do we just like rebase the turkey, to use analogy, like that one. How do we whisper into the chicken?
There you go.
How do we whisper in sweet nothings into the chicken to actually, just reshuffle the order? Because, rugby wasn't a professional sport, or that didn't exist then, but the physical determinants did.
Yeah. Again, I don't know, man. It's every situation's different. The way I've been fortunate here is just have a good relationship with the coaches, get them on board to get them to understand what we are trying to achieve, and then try to have it sync with what they're trying to achieve. So that way it's not too many chef's hands in the fucking soup. But I think it comes down to that comes down to a lot of just communicative stuff. Yeah. But yeah. I don't know.
And it's crazy. Well, I don't know if you know this, but over here in the UK, I know you did some stuff with the boys at Palace and everything recently, which was awesome to see. So good. But there's lots of like private coaches that will work with soccer players over here, and I'm conflicted in that. There's a guy, Sam Peeps, that was on the podcast. He works with a few guys, and he does some cool stuff, responsible stuff. But then there's also the Joe Schmoes, and it's always an interesting question, like how much development can you get with the condensed schedules that these guys have? But there was a player. He wasn't playing in the Premier League. I think it was the Championship or Division 1. But he was with his private coach in the week and rolled his ankle off of a doing an exercise or on a platform or something. And they lost on the weekend. He couldn't play as a starter, lost. And the head coach rattled them all in a press conference. So it was like, these guys working with our players, they stick on fucking Instagram to sell their programs, and who are you going to pay for his lost wages?
That sucks.
Because they're trying. I think I've been going somewhere with this, because over here what you find is that the emulation of the models of American sport with like good practitioners like you work with NFL players, with extended windows of off season. They're trying to do a version of that here when people play 50 weeks a year.
I mean, first rule of any that we learn as coaches: do no harm. So that sucks. Hopefully that pro player stop working with that fucking trainer. But I don't know. A lot. I've been soccer here in the States, or football, whatever the listeners want to call it. That's a year-round sport, unfortunately, here. So it's how do you get that development when they're just always on the go, always going? But soccer players, aside from technical abilities and skill level, their physical abilities generally aren't always the best. So even low dosing strength work and stuff still can have a positive effect, and still get a lot of transfer onto the pitch for the boys and girls. But I don't know. I think you just got to be smart about it and try to understand stresses that they're going through. And am I time to put my foot on the gas here a little bit, or do we have to just kind of low dose and sprinkle a little bit? It comes down to the conversations with the players and what's going on. So, for me, with the soccer athletes I work with, I say, you get 49% everything we do here, but I get 51. But I want your input. How you feeling? What's going on? How what's practice been like? What's outside stressors and things going on like? And that helps form the conversation to, all right, well, let's do a little bit of this and a little of that and a little less of this, or we'll skip these today.
Yeah. No, it's a good perspective. And I really challenge my thinking, because I've had some conversations with professional footballers over here, and it's always about, well, is it about the money? Is it about entertainment enough for me to just tick your boxes? Like, your club should be ticking your boxes for you anyway, really. What are you seeking from an outside coach, and and then I really kind of polarize my thinking all the time when if you look at like really sophisticated movement art forms like dance, for example, the things that these athletes are able to do without never touching a weight in their life
Yeah.
is phenomenal. Like my fiance, she's a professional dancer, and she's in musical theatre. Hell of an athlete, never lifted a weight. Leaps, gallops, split leaps, kick herself in the fucking head, kick me in the head if she wanted. And it's all and it makes me think about key movements, dynamics of effort, and transfer. Like, what do you think of when we throw that into the mix?
As far as different types of strength, or as far as transfer, or both? Or?
Yeah, transfer, preparation. I always think, well, if someone is like a professional at their sport and they're going to get 5-8 years maybe, what bucket should we be pulling out of? Like at some point, maybe general strength is not the answer to improve performance at that time.
Well, a couple things that come to mind, and I apologize if it doesn't fully answer, but just the things that pop in my head first is strength is an expression. Strength isn't one thing, right? It's relative to how you measure it. So maybe, Sam, you can squat fucking 300 kilo and I squat 100. But if we were to do pull-ups, I can do 25, you only do 12. Well, who's stronger? Well, it depends on how we measure it, right? So for me, at the end of the day, the ultimate measurement is on the field performance and how the athlete is performing. And then we work backwards from there. But if we're talking transfer, I did record a podcast with an author named Todd Hargrove, and he's written about, because he came from the world, he was a lawyer before he got into the health and wellness and pain and side of things, and talked about the difference between a complicated and a complex problem. And complex, there is no necessarily right answer, and there's so many different threads that we have to kind of pull on, versus complicated, where it's just like, okay, there's a complicated problem, but there's only so many variables, and we're trying to just pull to see the correct answer. So it's a difference between what do you say, between a sculptor and a gardener, right?
Yeah,
right. Gardening, there's so many variables between the weather and the temperature and the sun and the water and the soil levels, and the animals, the ecosystem around it. There are animals trying to eat the fucking seeds and blah blah blah, versus like, all right, man, sculpting, I just need these tools, and then this is how I do it. So if we're talking strength, I think that's complicated. I don't think that's hard, right? It's like falling out of a water or boat and hitting fucking water. We're talking transfer now, that's complex, because there's so many variables in things, from the types of strength to the technique to the coaches to the perception action abilities of the athletes to the motor learning that's gone into that, to the type of mental processes you have to have, and where's their focus, internal, external, all of these other things, man. And so going back to strength to me is complicated. I don't think it's that hard. I think we just, it's called generally, at least here in the States, the profession's called strength and conditioning coaches, but I think it's called strength and conditioning because those are the two easiest things to improve. Yeah. We don't call it sports training or speed and power. It's strength and conditioning. Those two things are fucking easy. We try to overcomplicate it to justify our profession, I think. Yeah. And then we get in these dick measuring contests about it. Complex, we're talking transfer training. Well, now there's so many different things that go into that, bro. I hope that answers some of your questions, and then maybe we can branch off from there, buddy.
So. Yeah, no, absolutely. There was what I'd hoped you said straight away, which was amazing. But I was actually talking to a coach last week, sort of explaining within the psychology of our profession is, you touched on it there, is that people need to feel powerful within the small amount of power that they have. And, it's kind of like, acknowledgement of that is really key to a healthy career in our profession as well. Like, and if you want to expand out of it, then, learn new skills. And the difference, obviously, between complicated and complex is paramount. And I think there's a lot of coaches that are afraid. Well, first and foremost, I think many coaches have not played enough sport to understand sport well enough. And many coaches lack physical empathy because it's a about my program rather than about my performance. It's about the transfer. And the notion, like I've gone forward and back about neurology of speed, neck up problems rather than neck down problems, and how when we think about the motor learning paradigms of one insane Dutchman, that completely doesn't do that, does it? But I'd like to get more into there. We won't give that too much life, but on the neck up side of movement, the neck up side, the neurology. Like, I had a friend of mine, Chris Matthijs, on who works with Matt and Kathy Bush. Do you know those guys? Neuro something. Scott Livingston.
I know Scott. Yeah. I know of Scott. Yeah, I know of Scott.
Yeah, they're it's all connected. That it's that type of the modalities of work. Yeah. So when we talk about this, like neurology of speed, neurology of movement, where do you find some of the good stuff to play with? Essentially, what's is it eye tracking to start off with? Is it where do you go? Where do you like to play in the sandbox?
Well, all right, careful with this question, Sammy. Yeah, just because this is such deep. This is for the last probably 5 years the rabbit hole I've been down the longest, and just I'm loving it. All right, let me try to backtrack here a little bit. So the way I view, whether it's neurology or we're just talking physical training or whatever, is the idea I stole from Ido Portal is we're humans first, we're movers second, we're specialists third. And the brain developed the same fucking way. So whether we're talking about the body or the brain, but you can't really disassociate the two, because when we went from quadrupedal to bipedal, that's when the brain really started developing all the frontal stuff. So it's all interconnected. And then the more the frontal stuff developed, the more the higher executive function stuff and all that fun things go. So I start from an evolutionary and from a neurodevelopmental perspective, whether I'm talking the body or the brain. So for me, sorry, I don't know, this is where you wanted to go, but sorry, buddy, you asked me the question. So, so the way the brain is developed is, right, it's kind of the analogy I give is it's a tree, right? We have the stem and we have the base, and then it grows up and then out and forward. And then we have while it's doing that, we have the two halves. We have the right and the left hemispheres. And it's at that stem, the brain stem, the deepest part, the oldest part of the brain, that's where we have these primitive reflexes. And these primitive reflexes are specific motor stimuli to sensory information, to sensory feedback. So touch, movement, things like that. So when I say reflexes, you turn the baby's head to the right or to the left, they're going to have one side all of a sudden extends and one side flexes over their body. That's a reflex. And these primitive reflexes, there's a lot of them, but there's maybe 8 bigger ones and then other ones, but they're all interconnected. They help the baby survive life in the uterus, and then help the baby maneuver through the birth canal, and then help us survive the first year of life. And so those reflexes should get kind of used up and then down regulated into the brain the more sensory and more movement we have. And if you look at the brain, so we have the brain stem and then it grows up and forward and we have the two halves. But the analogy I always give, at least when I try to explain it to my kids, is if you look at the brain like Legos, we have different pieces, and at the bottom we have the stem and then it moves forward. And then we have the sensory brain. And then we have the motor brain. And then at the very front, we have the executive function brain. We have the higher level thinking and cognitive development and all that stuff. But it's based off of that stem, and so how well that stem develops and is integrated and grows goes up above to the more sensory brain, and then to the motor brain, and then to the front. So how well all of those things are developed will have affects the other. So it's a sensory motor brain. And so with the integration of sensory and motor at the earlier stages, those reflexes, which we all are born with, it's the base software we all have, should be downregulated, and then more higher level reflexes are developed into the brain, and blah blah blah. As we go through these stages, that's how we go through these, which I'm sure you're going through now, and you will with these doctor visits for your son, and these milestones, which I don't know about over in the UK, but here in the United States, it's been kind of the CDC's just kind of poo-pooed, that's a whole other fucking topic for another podcast. But right, so we get these issues. So I view, to tie it back to hopefully to the answer you were looking for, I view neurology from those two perspectives of how we evolved from bipedal, well, from fish to reptiles to mammals, and then how we develop as from babies to adults, because the adult brain is built on the child's brain. So how well you develop your brain as a child will have an effect on the adult's brain. So sorry.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's
no, I love it. No, absolutely love it. So, to be really cynical, I'll be like, you can't trick the stumble reflex to develop acceleration.
Yeah. I don't know about all that stuff.
I'll stop.
Yeah, I got you.
But do you know, actually, I've got something there. What you just described there, I would say, for the purpose of today's podcast, is what we'll now know as whispering into the chicken. Because that was
the chicken. It's a good title for a podcast.
But you can tell, about you, you can tell, like, when you're teaching and delivering that information, you're seeing it being built in front of you, like there's a movie playing as you're going through it. Like you could just watch it, and I'm like that as well. And that's the kind of like the intuitive nature of how we develop information and how we work with information. It has to kind of paint a story in our minds, doesn't it? And it's exactly where I wanted you to go with it, because that's how we understand movement. And it just takes the from again, like some people, so like if a strength coach has never had a really bad injury, then they don't actually understand the re-education of gait. They wouldn't have a portal into that world, or a massive back injury that they've got to learn to crawl again. And so it all becomes really underappreciated. And when I was talking to my friend Chris, once you've got through those reflexes, and like the Moyer reflex is brilliant, isn't it? That you then also, from a neurological point of view, you have threat response to movement. And like we go down the apprehension, and I was sort of talking to him about long accelerations for athletes, but the field sport version that I use up to 50, 60 meters, not the Verkhoshansky 120 meters. And the down regulation of the threat response from speed to athletes with low speed age allows them to run faster. And so when we're combining, because there's so much learning between all of those 2 points, there's so much learning. But when you kind of, because I love seeing what you do in your gym with the play and more, what you may see as like less quantifiable preparation. Can you, because for all the fucking number knobheads out there. But can you talk about how? Because I just want someone listening. Hopefully, it's like, "Oh, this is fucking sick. I need more of this in my life." Can you bridge the gap between the obviously the development within the brainstem, left and right hemisphere, and play?
Oof. Well, play is important for all mammals, right? It's the smartest mammals in the animal kingdom all play, and they play for a very long period of time. And play is really how we learn best. For the large part, play is just an innate thing that's in us, man. You watch any animal play, any puppy, any kitten, any baby, they just grab and they play. It's a way for them to explore. It's a way for them to interact and learn how to work with whether it's an object or another body, and develop all the senses and sensory stuff that comes from that. It unlocks more of that unconscious, that faster reflexive thing, that we're always chasing to kind of get people out of their own way. Helps just learn how to navigate through an environment, or if they're older and they're playing kind of tag games or things like that. So I try to incorporate play in a lot of what we do, whether even in strength context too. So we're doing strength exercise. I try to make it playful versus just like, all right, you do these cable rows. We'll do it in many different variations. Same with pull-ups. I love pull-ups. I love climbing. We evolved to have shoulders that move for that, so we do lots of variations of that. And when I get athletes that say, okay, how do you want me to do the pull-up? I said, I don't care. However you want to do it, I don't care. You're not training for a military, so do it however the fuck you want. So we have all types of different grips, and ropes and pegboards and all different types of stuff, man. I try to make it playful. I tell them every time you do it in a different way, just to make strength more playful. But to tie it back to, I think what you're getting at, dude, play is just, that's what we need. It's how we both from a developmental standpoint, but also from a transfer standpoint, right? We're trying to get them the athletes to be problem solvers, because that's what sport is. And so we can do that through different play, because repetition without repetition, brother. So it's that whole, like, you playing tag, man, there's no one situation that's the exact same. It's always going to be changing. So how well can they respond and go to that? It's I've worked with too many athletes that they get off the bus and they look like fucking all-stars, and you're like, holy shit. But then they look like Tarzan and play like Jane, because they don't have they're spending so much time on this again, easy complex problem versus, or I'm sorry, complicated problem versus working on the complex problem. And and that's what play is, man. It's you and it's scalable. That's also the fun thing. So whether I'm working with low level kids or higher kids, it's very scalable. So anyways,
no, it's brilliant, because like I was just thinking about you go into different sporting environments, right? And before, there's something that always happens. It doesn't matter what sport it is. There's something that always happens before the session starts that technical coaches go fucking apeshit for. Is they're always playing a different sport that's not their sport. So in cricket, they'll play football. In rugby, they'll play football. In football, they'll probably play football, but rondos, they just love a rondo in football, but they'll play something else in order to. And there's, I kind of always thought, well, there's got to be something to that. There is something to it. I played, and we used to play all sorts of games before we had to be serious and run patterns and get shouted at. Because it unlocks the brain in a different way. I remember, you're like this. So over here we have the national leagues in rugby, and you kind of like part-time, get paid to play, and a couple nights a week, and you get some good beer money out of it. It helped me offset the low wages that I had in teams, put it that way, right? And it was freezing, and I forgot my hat. And Tuesday 7:30 at night, and you're out, and like you had like 2 hours training. So I raided the lost property, and inside the lost property I found a hat that I could wear. But what it was, what like kids have like the full suits, like onesie suits, like furry onesie suits, and this was probably for like a 10-year-old, and it was a cheetah, and the hood was like a Teletubby hood that went all the way. It just had a face cut out with two ears, right? I trained in it all winter. The first time I ran out to the field, the coach was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I just ran off, kept it on, trained my balls off because it was just so much fun. And
There you go.
the whole like that notion of just enjoyment can unlock so much more, so many more movement solutions, which I think is wonderful. And again, like you have with LTAD, like conventional long-term athletic development models start with broomsticking barbells when Montessori is there for a reason, and you should be jumping and should be doing all these sorts of things long before a broomstick comes involved. And I think that becomes the downward trend of specialization, of human optimization, not sport. If that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't pay too much attention on social media as far as what other people are doing, but there's a good group of coaches out there, at least here in the States, that I've seen that, and I try to model a lot off of the athletic skills model from over there in Germany. But man, making it variable, giving them many different problems and things to figure out, because you can get a lot of strength training, especially with younger kids, through play. Whether they're doing some kind of we do a lot of roughhousing here. I love roughhousing, and we got gymnastics mats, and we'll lay them out and make it super padded and soft, and then we'll do all types of roughhousing games. So whether it's sock wrestling or that's my spot or whatever, and the kids are gassed. They're fucking exhausted, because if it's so strenuous to push on another person, and they're just playing a game, man. But I mean, they're doing pushing and pulling and isometrics and concentric work, and they're moving, and you get all that stuff through play. We try to do rope climbing stuff. I try to do lots of crawling, obstacle courses and things of that nature, because it's fun, but we can get variations of different strength through different means. So again, strength is an expression. It's not one thing. And then maybe, man, later on I'll sprinkle in some stick work or squat work or something like that. But I can get squat work done having a kid go across. I have boxes, and we have a big 2x4 big balance beam, and we'll put it up, and we can do it at different heights, and I'll have kids go across that in many different ways, and I'll have them do it in a squatted way, and then they're trying to stay low so they can keep their balance and not fall, and their thighs are burning. Just like, dude, I can get squat work done through that, and they're playing, and they're just trying to cross a river, that we'll talk about. So you can get it in many different ways.
The good old fashioned duck walk, so good.
Yeah,
so good. It's kind of it. I remember, like, when I first started, they would do it like you had to do the LTAD, you had to do the low level academy stuff, and the program that you were given was like overhead squats with the dowel to start off with, and it was kind of like, this is not sport. And so we and I kind of like now I always like push myself into, well, what's the step? The problem is where it is at sporting level. So how do we take just like that slight step back from it, just to give it a little bit of something, give people something that they can then gleam onto, like when I did my Speedgate golf game, it was play, it unlocks speed. Like this, the notion in my book of like special speed is a lot more play orientated and sport orientated than strength and conditioning orientated, because you're trying to unlock specific task demands in the game itself. and you can like tricep with acceleration resisted for potentiation and stuff like that. So where do you feel like that you where you know, magic wand, we're like the magic wand, wave a magic wand, what does it, what at senior level, what would you like to do with a team from this perspective?
Dude, that's $1 million question, man. Geez. Well, I think education is the first thing that comes to mind. I don't think coaches study motor learning and all the different
Mm-hmm.
theories in it, because I think that will give a lot of perspective better versus just like this hard fine line of, you know, it's a coach led thing, and I'm going to tell them the specific thing I want them to do, and then they're going to try to apply it to a complicated fucking complex chaotic environment is the word I was looking for. So education at the higher levels, I don't know how much, and I'm not saying I wouldn't play with older higher level athletes,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, if we're talking professionals, people that are being paid, I would try to be a little more calculated with my play, because if
Mm-hmm.
like the story you gave earlier, if one of my fucking athletes roll an ankle and now they can't play and we lose a game because of that, yeah, dude, it's your ass. But I would try to make things, there's so many different ways to make strength more variable. But for me, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, those three kind of buckets in which I view movement is humans first. So, okay, what do I mean by that? Reflexes integrated, sensory system integrated. Do they have those? Okay, perfect. I'm a posturologist, so we can get into that. That's a whole other branch of neurology. But from a postural standpoint, from a joint integrity standpoint, do they have good joint ankle range of motion? Do they have adequate workspace within those joints? Do they own that? Then we go into moving, man. And then moving is that whole everything you've been talking about for eons now, of general to special preparatory, special, you know, developmental to competitive exercises, right? How strong are they through that bandwidth of stuff, and where do they fall? But you know, I love calisthenics and I love gymnastics and stealing things from, you know, soft acrobatics and the Ido Portals and all those movement things, movement type of people. That's been where one of the large things that I draw my influence from. So trying to incorporate that, because to your point of your fiance, the dancer, dude, strength's relative, and
Mm-hmm.
dancers are hella strong, and they got great balance, all, you know, on one toe, or whatever they're trying to do, and they have body control. And you know, why won't that why wouldn't that transfer onto the field
Yeah.
in many different ways? And again, it can be playful, it can be fun, it can get them out of the monotonous just constant training, you know, eat, sleep,
Mm.
train, repeat type of
Yeah.
mentality. And it's like, let's make it a little more fun and unlock those neuro pathways that we're talking about. So yeah, dude, fuck, long-winded answer, I apologize. I would start
No.
with education. I would start with trying to understand how we learn, how we develop, in where that fits. And I mean, it's a whole process, and that's a whole, dude, we need some beers and a few more hours to get through that conversation. But
Yes.
I would start with some education first, because I just think we get too stuck in our silos, and we don't look outside
Mm.
and drawing for inspirations from things, and we try to make specialists, but they might have skipped a few steps, and that's where we get those compensatory and compensation patterns. And let's go
Mm.
through that, and then break the mental monotony of just basic training. But anyway,
Yeah. Love it. So good. Well, that's all we got time for. Hopefully, everyone was listening, enjoyed that, and there will be. I think we need to do like we need to get a real deep dive on this at some point, because that would be amazing, and hopefully the listeners like that too. Jeff, if anyone wants to reach out to you to talk more about this stuff or just learn in any capacity, how can they get hold of you?
yeah, dude. My Instagram is really where I'm most active. Is DC Sports Training.
Mm-hmm.
X, I have X, but I don't really use X, man. I just follow a few people, and that's it.
Mm.
I have a Facebook. If people even Facebook anymore. That's about all I'm on. I don't have all the other things. Or you can email me at jmoyer@dcsportstraining.com, and I have a website, DC Sports Training. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Sam. Thanks.
No, so good. And to anyone who go follow him on Instagram and just watch it for a little while. Just watch his stories, watch what he does before you get in his inbox trying to ask him what 5x5 protocol to do. He will not reply. Okay. But thanks again, Jeff. Really good to see
Thanks,
you,
Sam.
man.
You too, bye.